What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. This right here is the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Now, in case you're not familiar with this phone, this is the successor of the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE that was launched in September of 2020. And this phone is basically Samsung's attempt at giving us some of the power and features of a flagship phone without such a high price tag. And I would say they actually did a pretty good job. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022. Now before we go any further, as always, I want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And for your convenience, I will be linking to this phone in the video description. And as always, if you want to learn more about it, be sure to check out my full review on the channel as well. But with that being said, let's get started. So my first reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022 is the display. Now, if you've ever seen this phone in person, this is probably not going to come as a whole lot of a surprise because this phone really does look amazing. With a 6.4-inch 120Hz dynamic AMOLED display, we're not only getting a real good size that's big enough to see everything on, but at the same time not so big that it's just bulky and uncomfortable to carry around. But that 120Hz refresh rate is also going to make the movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother, which is going to be good for stuff like streaming videos, playing games, all of that. And it's also just going to make navigating through the phone in general feel a little bit more premium and really give you more of a flagship experience. Now with this phone, we're getting a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 411, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen to body ratio of about 85.3%. So on top of having a nice refresh rate and a good size and form factor, we're also getting a sharp, crisp image here, which is going to make your content consumption experience even better. And in general, this dynamic AMOLED display is going to give us some bold, vivid colors, great viewing angles, good brightness, and a real high-end experience overall. So no matter what you're doing on your phone, if you're playing a game, watching a video, viewing photos, or just generally using it as a phone, this display is going to give you a great experience, and it's definitely one of the strong points of this phone. My second reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022 is because it has NFC. Now, in case you don't know what it is, NFC is the technology behind contactless mobile payment services like Google Pay, so without NFC, you can't use those features. Now, it is true that there are getting to be more and more lower end phones that have NFC, and with this phone, seeing that it is a flagship phone, albeit a more affordable one, it is more of an expectation than anything for it to have NFC. But that being said, there are still plenty of phones out there, even higher end mid-range phones like the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G for example, that really should have NFC but don't. And since NFC is getting more and more popular and widely used, it's getting more important now than ever for smartphones to have that feature. So today in 2022, while it's still going to be a little hit or miss whether or not any given phone has NFC, if you want to use contactless mobile payment services like Google Pay, you can be sure a higher end phone like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE is actually going to have the technology to use those features. My third reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022 is the camera. Now this phone has a real nice camera setup, arguably even better than the iPhone 13, but that's a story for another video. To give you a quick rundown of what this phone has, we got a 12 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera. For video, this phone also has a max recording quality of 4K at 60 frames per second in both the front and rear cameras. Now, if you're coming from more of a mid-range phone, it might seem like there are a couple things missing, and I want to clear that up. Now, first of all, there's no depth sensing camera here, but don't worry, this phone can take great portrait photos in both the front and rear cameras. As you can see here, the portrait mode not only works, but it's also quite a bit better than the portrait photos in pretty much every mid-range phone. Now, the other thing you might be wondering about is a macro camera. There are lots of upper mid-range phones that have them, like for example the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, and while being sort of a niche feature, it is a cool one to have. You can get some nice close-up detailed images, especially with a higher quality macro camera. And while this phone doesn't exactly have one, you can use the telephoto lens sort of as a macro camera, as you can see in this photo right here. Although the details aren't exactly as close up or sharp as a dedicated macro camera, it will get the job done in most cases. So now that we've gone over that stuff, I want to give you an idea of what this camera can really do. So here are some photos taken by the main camera. As you can see here, they're great quality. The colors are nice and bright, details are real sharp and vivid, pretty much everything you can ask for in a camera. So no matter what you're taking photos for, whether it's just casual stuff for social media or sending to friends and family, or maybe it's more of a professional thing, no matter what you need it for, the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE has the camera to get it done. And the video quality is not bad either. Like I said before, you can shoot in 4K at 60 frames per second in both the rear and front cameras, and take a look at this B-roll. This phone can shoot some seriously good videos, definitely better than pretty much any mid-range phone you're gonna find. So this phone is really gonna be great for anyone who's constantly taking photos, shooting videos, all that, but it's especially gonna be good for content creators, because if you need your photos to look real professional and high quality, and you don't wanna go all the way to something like an iPhone 13 Pro Max or a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, then a phone like this is really gonna be a good alternative. Now my fourth reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022 is the processor. With this phone, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 5G processor. Now keep in mind there's another variant of this phone out there that has 8GB of RAM instead of 6, but again, the phone in this video has 6GB of RAM and not 8. Now regardless, this is one of the top of the line processors from Qualcomm, so you can expect to get some extremely fast speeds no matter what variant you get. Now I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 1081 and a multi-core score of 3227. So again, this is a seriously fast phone, and no matter what you're doing on it, whether you're just doing normal activities like browsing the web, going on social media, that sort of thing, or you're playing games and streaming lots of videos and stuff like that, you're gonna get a great experience no matter what. I've personally been using this phone quite a bit for a bunch of different things since I got it, and I've had no performance issues whatsoever. And although there are some phones like iPhones, for example, that are a little bit faster technically, with this phone it's at that level where a little bit more processing power is really not going to make a whole lot of a difference in the grand scheme of things. So if you're looking for something that's really fast that you can do high-end activities with, then the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE is going to be a great option. And in addition to just being fast, this phone of course also does have 5G connectivity, which granted for a phone at this level in 2022, it is an expectation. It would be weird if it didn't have that. But at the same time, it's still worth mentioning 5G is the future, and while 4G is not going to be going away anytime soon, if you want access to the latest technology and really the best of the best, then a 5G phone is of course going to be the way to go. My fifth reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022 is because it has wireless charging. Now I know you might be thinking, is that actually a reason to make a decision on whether or not to buy a phone? Honestly, not really, but it's such a cool feature, I did think it's worth mentioning. Wireless charging can be a real nice feature to have in a number of different situations, but really it's one of those things where if you don't have it, you're probably never going to think about it, but once you do have it and get used to using it, you'll really start to appreciate it and probably not want to go back to a phone that doesn't have it. So while it's definitely not the most useful feature in the world, wireless charging is one of those features that a higher end phone like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE is pretty much guaranteed to have that for whatever reason is kind of tricky to find in lower end devices. But those were 5 reasons to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE in 2022. There are of course a lot more than 5 reasons why you might want this phone, but there are also a ton of reasons why you might not want it as well. So to find out more about that, be sure to check out my full review of the phone on the channel. And once again, for your convenience, I will be linking to this phone in the video description because prices are always changing. So for the latest up-to-date price, definitely check that out. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.